So what major mistake have you made in the past with your investments that you would urge younger people not to repeat as they get into property investment?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, my major mistakes is not about property. Twice in my life, I lost the GDP of a small African nation. I was so heavily geared into shares that one was when the tech crash happened in 2007, and then the other one was in the GFC. I don't know what years it was, but tech crash and GFC. And I'd borrowed a bucket load of money, and you had 30% gearing. So I had 70% debt, 30% equity. And then when the stock market goes down 30%, which can happen like that, all gone. And so I made the decision not to buffer it up. I decided to sell down, and the only advice, my advice number one is to anyone, I always say this on my podcast, 10 with Ty podcast, is never ever borrow money for shares. If you can't own the share outright, don't buy it, right? That's my number one advice to anyone. And the problem with the gearing or the leveraged share portfolio wasn't that they were bad stocks, but what happens is when margin loans start occurring, you have to pile out. And so some of these good stocks, people were just getting margin called, and you just have to sell. To the point, some of these stocks were trading below their asset base, but that's what can happen in the stock market. It can be very fickle.
Yeah. Well, what about the real estate market?
What advice?
Mistakes you've made in the past that you would urge people not to repeat?
Look, I worked out, I've bought 21 properties in my life, and I don't regret one of them, to be honest. I bought a property in Cairns that still wasn't the best performer. It's just because I thought it was cheap. That's probably was the worst investment I made in Cairns. But it still made money. It still made a solid 6% return, but it didn't actually go up in capital value. But I just thought I was cheap, and sometimes cheap doesn't mean best, does it?
What have you bought? Has it always been houses on land, or has it been units and townhouses in the mix as well?
Units, houses, offices, warehouse, but mainly units. Mainly units, and successfully with units. And the house I'm living in right now is probably the best one. It's beautiful. It's in Clovelly.
So mainly attached dwellings.
Yep. There's a couple I've got in Brisbane that are freestanding, but mainly they've been attached dwellings, yep.
That's interesting because so many people are completely wedded to the idea you've got to buy houses on land because they show better capital growth over time than units. You haven't found that.
No, but the difference is the units that I've bought, I always looked at the land ratio, right? So the unit that went, one of the best investments was a unit in Bondi. It was a big block and I only had 3 units on it. So I went, well, the land value, if this place got knocked down, I'm buying this for land value. So you've got to have a high ratio of land to the purchase price. I've never bought a unit in a block of 500, right? They've always been low rise. Maximum was 20, was with the first one in Balmain. But yeah, so there's got to be a high land component in order for that to work.
Okay. Because what I think we're seeing in recent times in the market right across the country is a shift in that dominant paradigm about people preferring houses on land versus apartments for capital growth. We're seeing more and more people opting for attached dwellings for lifestyle reasons, for affordability reasons, all sorts of reasons.
Yep.
All sorts of different buying cohorts, young people, downsizers, migrants from overseas. And I think that there's a shift in the market that we're going to see much better capital growth from apartments. And
I think some of these integrated developments really help that. When you see a Woolworths down the bottom of an apartment block, you speak to those people, they love it. They love going down to the Woolworths on the ground level, then up, get the lift up, Yeah. And having, like Meriton's building childcare centres in their places and, shopping centres within the little community.
Yeah.